Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Finance Committee of Tuesday, July 27th, 2021, time 5:07 p.m. First item on the agenda, approval of minutes. Is there a motion to approve draft minutes of June 22nd, 2021 Finance Committee meeting?
So moved.
Is there discussion? Hearing none, we'll put the motion to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is public appearances, non-agenda items. I don't believe we have anybody at this point.
Nobody for non-agenda items, no.
Okay. Moving on. The Finance Director report. In the first item, 4A, Treasurer's Report as of April 30th, 2021. Should I turn it over to Misty for discussion?
Absolutely. So there are two treasurer report packet in your packet. One is for April and one is for May. Feels good to kind of get those out of the way, so thank you for your patience while I'm getting caught up on stuff. In the interest of time, I'll keep it kind of brief, but if obviously you guys have questions, more than happy to answer them. The one thing I wanted to point out on the May report, as you probably noticed, the Summit Credit Union CD was in excess of the FDIC limit as of that point in time. That was just a miscommunication between us and the bank, and it's been fixed for the month after, but that does look a little bit weird for that time. And then as of these reports, so April and May tax collection would have been pretty much over at that point. We did do the settlement of that lottery credit that we talked about with the March Treasurer's report. So just kind of in the swing of things at this point.
Very good, very good. And you've covered both reports then?
I did. I do have other things to talk about too, unless you have other questions on those.
Yeah, is there any questions from the committee? No.
Excellent.
There's no questions, so I'll let you, the floor is yours.
Very good. Just a couple other things to talk to you about too. First is the ARPA funding. I know there's a lot of interest in that. Since the last time we met a month ago, we have received our 50% payment that we expected. We'll get the next 50% about a year from now. And then they have released the reporting guidelines. So my first report is due at the end of August, and then I have to do annual reports after that. The guidance as far as how we can spend the money is still the interim rules, so still kind of working my way through all of that, hoping for some final guidance issued soon. And then now that Chad is on board, we'll get out a schedule to talk about the spending plan for that funding. So you should be able to see that in the pretty near future. And I guess while I brought up Chad, I know you all know him, but for those of you at home that are watching the meeting, so Chad Brecklin is our new city administrator. He will be at most of these finance committee meetings to help support from a staff perspective. And then the last thing to report is the budget kickoff. So worksheets were due today from all the department heads, and I kick off the presentation with you all at council tomorrow during the committee of the whole meeting. So I wrap up CIP tonight and start the budget process tomorrow. That is it.
Very good, very good. Thank you, Misty. If there's no further questions, we will move on to the next item, review of bills. First item, 5A, detailed review of checks for $10,000 and above. And for some reason, it's not opening for me. There we go. Are there any questions? Yes, go ahead, Gabrielle.
I just wanted to confirm that large $243,000 purchase, is that the street sweeper? Okay, that's what I thought.
And then I'll also point out that this is for a month worth of checks because we didn't have that last meeting, so we just put them together on one report.
Okay. We're not looking for approval on any of these, correct?
Nope, just for your review and questions.
All right, since there are no further questions on 5A, we'll move to 5B. Detailed review of all checks issued, checks 12286 through 122371, June 16th through July 15th, 2021, totaling $4,658,881.77. Questions from the committee? Hearing none, we'll move on to 5C. Detailed review of P-card transactions for $10,000 and above for the cycle ending June 7th, 2021, totaling $114,723.09. Questions from the committee? No. Hearing none, we'll move on to 5D. Review of P-card transactions for the cycle ending June 7th, 2021, totaling $224,577.18. Questions from the committee? Hearing none, moving on to 5E. Detailed review of ACH payments for $10,000 and above, June 1st through June 30th, 2021, totaling $929,318.33. Questions from the committee? Hearing none. Moving on to 5F. Detailed review of all ACH payments June 1st through June 30th, 2021, totaling $938,910.67. Questions from the committee? No questions. It's a quiet evening. Thank you. Thank you. We'll move on to item 6, action items. First item on the action item is 6A, Resolution R-89-20, adopting Seminole Highway Sanitary Sewer Interceptor Connection Charge Report, which was postponed from April 13th, 2021 meeting. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Approved by Alder Wheeler. Before we go into discussion, is there somebody from staff speaking?
Bill is here to speak on this one.
Bill Balke, our Director of Public Works and Engineering. Go ahead, Bill.
All right. Back in 2017, we installed a sanitary sewer interceptor along the Badger State Trail that serves an area near the Stoner Prairie area, Sub-Zero, and then south along Lacey Road. The interceptor picks up an area, and the costs that are associated with that are borne by the development area that's there. So we take the total cost of the improvements, administration, staff time, et cetera, and then divide that cost up to the area that's serviced, the developable area. Each of those parcels will be required to pay this fee based upon their area at the time of development. So if there's like a CSM or something that comes in, they want to develop, they will be required to pay those charges at that time.
Okay, very good. Questions from the committee?
I actually did send an email to all of you ahead of time, too. And as the Board of Public Works approved last night, there is an additional clause that we would like to have you add into the resolution that would state, be it further resolved that the charges will be indexed annually according to the special assessment policy for allocation of interceptor and stormwater facilities. So the appropriate motion at this point would be to amend it as approved by Board of Public Works. It's probably the easiest.
Okay. Is that the motion then on the floor, or would you like to see that, hear that from one of us?
It has to be from one of you guys. Yep, so
Okay.
that would be just staff's recommendation.
Okay.
I move approval as amended.
So you did the original
Oh, I-
resolution, so are you okay doing a friendly amendment to make that change?
Yes,
Fantastic.
since I was at Board of Public Works yesterday.
Yeah. And I'll point out when we get to one later on in the agenda for the other charge report, we'll have that same recommendation.
Okay. So then procedurally, discussion again, or
Yep, so
if there is, yeah.
So at this point, you have a motion on the floor to approve it as amended by Board of Public Works and includes that clause that I read off.
Okay. And those in favor of the amendment, correct?
A whole thing altogether.
Whole
So
thing
since he did a
altogether.
friendly on his own,
We're
it's just
putting it
one.
all in one
Yep.
fell swoop. Okay. Those in favor signify by saying
Oh,
aye.
can I ask a question?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, yes.
So this is the first time I've seen this type of project before, so it was interesting to read through all the content. So these amounts of money, is this being charged to any properties that already exist and properties that will exist in the future, or is it only new developments?
the area that's served by the sewer system. So that would be, there are existing homes in Stoner Prairie that were built since 2017 that connected to this. So that developer that developed that area will be charged this per area amount, as well as the future development. So it's not borne by everybody in the whole city. It's just borne by the area that's developed at the time the interceptor's installed.
But it's paid by the developers and not by the homeowners?
Correct.
Okay.
The developer's going to pay for Stoner Prairie. I think it was William Ryan Homes at the time. Crescent Crossing will pay for theirs, and Stoner Prairie, all of those will pay their own fair share at this time.
And the developers are very familiar with this process. This is something that they do in all different places they develop. So we're not going to see any residents there aren't any residents that are getting an assessment bill for this?
No.
Okay.
No.
Thank you.
Then just as a follow-up, so the developer has already, I'm guessing, collected that money from the sale of the property or something, and it will be forthcoming, or it already has been submitted, those dollar amounts? Or is that being too technical? Not technical for you, but I mean, as far as, am I getting too far down in the weeds to, I mean, the developer's already paid or will pay his portion, and that's our only concern?
They're aware that a charge will be coming forward, and we had to calculate that amount and based upon their areas. So they know it's coming. It's just that we had to calculate that amount.
Okay, my only concern is then hearing from residents, because if they're unaware of this at this point, or I'm assuming it's not coming to them as a surprise, it's probably already been included in the property itself, I'm guessing. And then, go ahead, Gabrielle.
Did it take 4 years to complete the project, or why is there such a long delay between 2017 and when we're looking at this charge report now?
The project was completed in 2017. No, it was 2018 that it was completed. But it's just a very complex calculation to be done, and we just needed the time to do it right.
Got it.
Okay. Further discussion?
I think if you look at the parcels, there's like 204 parcels
Right.
that had to be evaluated.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I wasn't certain if it was after the fact or before the fact, and I hate to see after the fact, and then suddenly the residents, there's a surprise that the developer didn't take into play.
Correct.
That's all. And then we would hear about it as well.
Right.
As a surprise. Go ahead.
And Misty, could you explain the amendment about the assess, how that will play into this?
Absolutely. So what the amendment was that we did the friendly for is the amount that's in the resolution is based as of now, essentially, or back when it was done, but the cost will be inflated based on the index up until the time it pays. So let's say it doesn't actually develop for 5 years, they'll have to pay an inflation amount over those 5 years to determine the new amount that they owe us.
Thank you.
So the word index is another term for similar to interest?
Same idea, inflation.
Inflation?
Yep.
Okay, all right. Very good. Further questions? Hearing none, I'll put the motion to a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. 6B is the next item. Resolution R-119-21, approving a design contract with KL Engineering for the design of the Seminole Highway and Lacey Road intersection improvements. This is a direct referral.
I move approval.
Approval from Alder Gerhart. Is there somebody here to speak from staff? Bill. Go ahead, Bill.
All right. This contract is being considered tonight for the intersection design at Seminole Highway and Lacey Road. The consultant that we selected to do this was KL Engineering, and we did this off of a short list of consultants that we evaluate every year for qualifications. So in the beginning of the year, we look through, they submit qualifications, their prices, and then we're able to direct negotiate with that company for given projects. Given the timeline of the Lacey Road reconstruction that is ongoing right now, that's from the Badger State Trail to Fitchburg or Fitcherona Road, given the timeline that project is being constructed and the timeliness of having this intersection coincide with the construction so that we don't have two seasons of construction, we selected off the short list instead of going out for RFP, getting bids back. And we saw this as an efficiency for time to be able to bid that. The second thing with KL Engineering is they did a lot of the preliminary study for Lacey Road to the west. They provided the information for the T grant that they submitted, that we submitted for, and we received the award of. They did the design and alignment, safety improvements under the subcontract for Mars EOR, who's doing that project. And Mars EOR is going to be the subconsultant to KL Engineering on this intersection project for the stormwater design. And Mars EOR did the North Stoner Prairie neighborhood plan and the big stormwater information that was in that packet there. So they're very familiar with the stormwater issues there and have all the background. We saw this as an efficiency for the city to move forward with this because they've already have a lot of the background that would have taken other consultants more time to get up to speed. And it took about 2 months out of the process to be able to select this consultant instead of going out for RFPs and evaluating them, negotiating the contract. So we really needed to get this under contract quickly. And KL Engineering is a great firm that we work with. Done a number of projects in the city. They work here in the city of Fitchburg and consider this their neighborhood community. So they're very excited to do the project, and we did recommend going forward with this contract. The one addition to the resolution that you're considering tonight is that there is a clause in one of the therefore be it resolves that we are going to select an intersection design. I think that's in the resolution. And the Board of Public Works had selected the Roundabout as the alternative for design. And the Transportation and Transit Commission also selected the Roundabout. So to amend the resolution to include either the selected the alternative or one of the other alternatives, which was either a four-way stop or a traffic signal.
Okay, very good. So we do procedurally need to amend to add roundabout.
Amend it to add whichever intersection control you believe is the best. Roundabout is what has been selected by the other committees.
All right, so we'll open it up for discussion. Gabriella.
Okay.
So the one thing I was unclear about, so I missed Transportation Transit, but I reviewed the meeting, and so I saw that they selected the Roundabout. The one thing I was unclear about in that discussion with Andrew is, does staff have a strong opinion about Roundabout versus traffic control? Because I think the four-way stop is out of the question. We're not doing a four-way stop. So it's either traffic control or Roundabout. Does the staff have a view? Because it wasn't clear for me from the memo if you had a preference or if Andrew had a preference.
Yeah, discussions in our department, we've talked about, we feel that a roundabout in the area would serve the public the best for the longest amount of time for the period. It's just during the midday, you don't want to be sitting there for 30 seconds waiting for a light to change when no one is there. If you look at, the four-way stop that was at Nesbitt and Fitchburg Road prior to the roundabout, and now how you're just able to flow through the area with very little impact, that's very similar to what will happen here. With traffic signals, you do have that, the Badger State Bike Trail that's pretty nearby. And if you can imagine trying to make that yellow light and then flying through the intersection and be right there at the trail, it does provide a lot slower speeds going in and out of the intersection. We feel it would be safer for the bikes as well.
Great. And the one thing I wanted to note from Transportation Transit is that Steve Arnold and Tony Hartman were there representing Bike Fitchburg, and they also asked, or they recommended the Roundabout for a point of reference.
Further questions? Jim? No. Oh, okay. All right. Go ahead, Gabrielle. Mm-hmm.
I guess my last question then, there is enough funding in this CIP project to pay for the Roundabout, is that right?
Last I knew there was. Do you have any updated information?
What's that?
I said last I knew that it was, but I wasn't sure if Bill had updated information.
Yeah, we updated the CIP to reflect the additional amounts this year.
Okay. My personal opinion is I agree with the Roundabout. It seems like it's been the consensus across lots of different organizations, and I agree with that assessment personally.
Yeah, I personally don't have any objection. I prefer to see a roundabout. I know there were some concerns with the a bike path, but as long as there were representatives from the biking community in support of, it's fine. Yeah. Any further discussion?
So we do have some procedurally, so right now, we do still need to amend the resolution to include what I'm hearing is a roundabout option. Gabriella, you were the one that made the original motion.
Can I amend my own? Okay, so I'd like to amend it to add the alternative for a single line roundabout.
And then since you made a formal amendment, we'll need to do a vote on the amendment and then a vote on the resolution as a whole.
Okay. So I'm simply asking, is there all those in favor of the amendment to include the word roundabout?
To include the option of the
Option. Okay, roundabout. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the amendment carries. All right. Now to the original motion. All those in favor of the original motion
As amended.
as amended, signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, motion carries. We will move on to the next action item, 6C. I have my bearings here. Resolution R-127-21, resolution to accept a change order to the Curry Court and Old Indian Trail study. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
And who will, from staff, address this issue? Back to Bill.
Back to Bill.
All right, go ahead, Bill.
Thank you. We have a contract with a consultant to study the area of Curry Court and Indian, what is it?
Indian Trail?
Indian Trail. Thank you. Area for stormwater improvements. There's an area that has flooding. There's an area that has groundwater issues with sump pumps running. And we hired this consultant to look at options on how to alleviate the flooding and the groundwater issues that we have there. We went through and evaluated 3 alternatives, piping and ditching through the area. And one of the alternatives that we did not consider, because we only paid for 3 options to consider, was also a pumping option. After the study was completed with the 3 options, we found that the impact to the properties was not as good as we would have hoped. It didn't alleviate the flooding as much as possibly a pumping option could. And just to put everybody's mind at ease and to see what the impact would be for that 4th option for a pumping, we received a quote from the consultant to study that for about $8,500. What that will do is just allow, the city, the residents, to put everybody's mind at ease as to if this option is truly a better one. Are we willing to go forward with that? Because there would be, ongoing expenses for the maintenance and the operation of a pump station. So there would be impacts that way, but it's possible that we may be able to alleviate the flooding and groundwater issues a little better. So it is, we would like to go forward with that option. The Board of Public Works approved that as to be able to get that information just to evaluate everything possible for that neighborhood to be able to select the best alternative.
Very good. Question I have is there also a public hearing or informational hearing Thursday evening, the 29th, regarding this particular location? I thought something came out in Public Works. I may be completely wrong. I mean, is that correct?
That is correct. We have a meeting Thursday
Okay.
at 7 p.m. here in the council chambers.
And that will be discussion of what we're speaking to this evening?
Correct.
Okay, all right. Well, just wanted to make sure that was relayed as well to our viewers. Further discussion? Jim?
So if the pump station is put in, who pays for it, and how does that all work? I mean, what fund does this come out of?
There's a portion that would be funded out of the stormwater utility, and a portion of it would be assessed either to an area or those benefiting from this improvement.
Gabriella?
So the residents that have, there's been, I believe, 3 residents that have come to several meetings to speak in opposition to the idea of a pump. I think specifically because of the cost associated with it. I assume the assessment, Claudia actually just went through a whole presentation at RCC about how stormwater assessments work, but do we have a sense of if this would be a 50-50 city resident, or if this would be fully on the residents? Like, does it affect city streets enough for it to be a partial city cost?
It does,
Okay, so it would probably be 50-50.
some proportion. Yes.
And pumping stations, like, what's a ballpark pumping station cost?
I believe, like the one that we would be installing at Sub-Zero was around $800 to $1 million.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking too. I'm hesitant. I like, I appreciate that we want to study the different options, but given like this small area, and I do appreciate too that it's a tough situation that the options that we looked at weren't the best, but I think we should be very, very suspicious of putting in new pumping stations in the city, not just because of the upfront cost, but the ongoing costs, and also detrimental to our renewable energy goals. And, it's just a very expensive proposition. And so I'm almost hesitant to even approve this because I just don't know that we'd ever move forward with the pump. So I'm not sure why we'd spend the money, but I'm willing to hear what the other committee members have to say about it.
Well, I'm interested to hear what the study has to say. And then I'm also very interested to hear what the residents have to say. I already have Jim and I have a pretty good idea at this point. We've met with them. But let's have that conversation. Let's see what $8,500 is going to present to us. Yeah. I have some concerns as well. $1 million or $1.5 million for a pump. Is it? I certainly hope we get a heck of a lot for that kind of money. So I guess there's further discussion coming forward. Jim?
And what would be the estimated ongoing cost for this?
I'd have to look at what the Sub-Zero study had. They do have ongoing maintenance costs in there. We don't have costs associated with this one. It may be a smaller pump too. I'm just saying as a comparable, Sub-Zero's got a very large area that comes to it. Current Court's a little bit smaller, so it may not be that, maybe a lot less.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. All right, we'll have that conversation going forward. Further discussion? All right, hearing none, let's put it to a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Ayes carry, motion carries. Moving on to the next item, item D, 6D, Resolution R-128-21, authorization to replace fire department staff vehicle. Do I hear a motion?
I move approval.
And who will speak to this particular resolution?
So I will start, if I may, just to share my screen quick. So we noticed this afternoon that the pre-approval that was included in the packet is for the purchase 2 years ago and not for the current purchase that we're talking about. So just putting up on my screen for supporting documentation, the correct form. The resolution is okay as is, no amendments are needed there, but just wanted to make sure we had the right supporting document.
Yeah, thank you for that. The vendor is the same as it was 2 years ago. We're going off of the state bid. So the benefit behind the state bid is they've already done the work in identifying the most economical bidders, and that is Ewald. The other thing that we're doing with this vehicle is it is replacing a Suburban. This is the replacement vehicle will be a pickup truck, which from a frame and a platform standpoint is a lot less than what we would have to pay if it was a Suburban. What we're trying to do here is to identify if this is a better platform for us and a more economical purchase. And I'd like to get in front of a couple of questions, so I apologize, Gabrielle, if I'm stealing your thunder. But right now, still, electric vehicles, hybrid vehicles have not made technological headway to the point where they're significantly positioned to handle emergency response. And I know that Madison just went with an electric fire engine. It'll be interesting to see how that performs long term. I'm hopeful that the technology is getting to the point where we have access to some more fuel efficient vehicles. But what we know about the Madison electric vehicle, although this is completely different, this is a staff vehicle and not a fire engine. In order to pump water, they still need a generator on that vehicle that is diesel fueled. So it's a work in progress. We don't necessarily want to be the people that are addressing the nuances of new technology because of the fact that we just don't have that many vehicles that would be able to replace it in the event that it doesn't meet the need. So we're still continually looking at it, and we're hopeful that in the coming years we'll be able to address that from a public safety standpoint.
Okay. Anything further, Misty, before we move to committee?
Nope, nothing
discussion?
further.
Okay. First question. Go ahead, Gabrielle.
Can you talk about the use of this vehicle? Is this like carrying, is this like an important, I guess I always just assumed the equipment was carried by the trucks and this sounded like something that was used to just carry staff around, like more of like trucking humans around. Is that an incorrect assumption?
This serves as a command vehicle, so it's the person who is basically ultimately responsible for the 3 stations. It's the person that will arrive on scene, park outside, and provide incident command. We do have a couple of these vehicles. This one is the one that is staffed by our paid on premises personnel. And what it also serves is an additional vehicle during the day in the case that we're doing something that requires the movement of equipment. If we're doing fire inspections, that doesn't necessarily require the use of the entire crew. So it has other functions, but the primary function is that of command and control of a emergency incident, and it's the one that is driven by our officer in charge.
Because I guess the reason I ask is that this strikes me as the one vehicle in the fire department fleet that could be a hybrid. Like, in my opinion, like, it just seems like this is the one that could be. So yeah.
Yeah, the issue with it is the emergency lights. Hybrids don't necessarily have the idle capacity to be able to handle the electrical demand of the emergency lights while it's parked on scene. And one thing we do know about the emergency lights, although in certain respects we might be able to turn them off, in traffic situations, it's just very dangerous to get on scene and to disengage the lights. So until we have a hybrid vehicle that's able to meet that demand, and I do think we're getting closer, we're just not there yet.
Anything else, Gabrielle, before we move? Jim, you had a question? Go ahead.
Sure. I guess this is more of a comment. Sorry about that. I don't know why that happened. Most fire calls are EMS related now. Is that correct?
A good number of emergency calls are EMS related. We're providing support to emergency medical calls, and typically it's our engine companies that provide that support. The reason we send the entire engine company is because of the fact that they are, for all intents and purposes, still in service and are able to respond to the next emergency response from the call. If we split up the companies or put them on a pickup truck to support EMS, they would either have to drive separately to the incident or they would have to somehow make arrangements to link up, which could add response time to the incident. So we try to keep them together because for all purposes of emergency response, it's more efficient to keep the crew together.
Yeah, and I get that, and where I was going with that is, I think these electric fire trucks will probably be something that we really should consider because of that fact that a lot of times just sending a big truck, with diesel fuel to basically an EMS call, I think we can probably save some carbon emissions, if we start sending, electrified vehicles to what are a majority EMS calls by the fire department. That's all I wanted to, we should be thinking about that.
And I do think that we're going to be addressing that as we look at the specifications for fire engines in the future. But like you said, that this is a separate vehicle.
Very good. Further discussion? Okay, hearing none, we'll place the motion to a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Next item, item E, Resolution R-141-21. Resolution to reject the bid for the fabrication and installation of exterior wayfinding signage project. And this is a direct referral. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Alder Wheeler. And who is, from staff, is going to speak? Bill.
Yes, I will.
Well, go ahead, Bill.
Yes, earlier this year, we have a project for replacing the wayfinding signage around the city. And this is directional signage to our major destinations within the city, like City Hall or, some of our parks and things like that. So there's, I think there was 70 signs, I think it is, that will be placed around the city with different destinations and arrows and things like that. We bid that out. We had a company that did the specifications, and we bid it out with their specifications, and they were pretty vague. And we had a big variance in the number of bids. They were all over what we had estimated the project to be. So we repackaged it and are bidding it out currently under consideration for the signage. But prior to accepting any new bids, we have to reject the old bids. And so this is a formality that we have to do something with the old bid before we can accept anything new.
Okay. Discussion from the committee. Hearing none. We'll put the motion to a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, hearing none, the motion carries. Let's see, moving on to item F, Resolution R-143-21, a resolution approving a cost-sharing agreement for chip sealing, and ran out of space here, so I'm guessing it's chip sealing. Is that Post Road and Sain Road, if I remember my reading from the documents, between the city of Madison and city of Fitchburg, and this is a direct referral.
I move approval.
We have a motion to approve, and staff. It's Bill. Are you Bill up for the challenge here?
Yes.
Go ahead, Bill.
There's a number of streets in the city of Fitchburg that have joint ownership, with Madison being on one side and city of Fitchburg on the other side. Whenever we have joint projects that we consider, we approach Madison, or Madison approaches us and asks if we want to participate in those projects or if we have funding for it. That's the case this year for Post Road. That's kind of to the west of Fish Hatchery Road to Leopold. And there's a portion of Sain Road between Post Road to the south that we have joint ownership with those. Madison approached us. Their prices were just slightly better than our prices that we bid out for chip sealing and crack filling this year. So they approached us, said we'd like to do that under our contract. We said great. And they have a formal agreement that is required for them to execute the contract and make payment to them. So the cost for that was estimated at $26,000, and it will be split 50-50 with the city of Madison, so our share would be $13,000 for those two streets. We do have it in the budget, our operation budget, to make that payment.
And I'll start with the questions, and this is something that was on the list with this particular location. It wasn't just something they reached out and said, well, let's just take advantage of. I'm guessing it is in need if they've identified it as well.
That's correct. We've been doing chip sealing in the area, Post Road, we did this year. Mm-hmm. So that whole area is in need of chip sealing, and just either we were going to do it this year, or they were going to do it this year, or we're going to do it next year.
Sure, Sure. Okay. I'll open up the additional questions from the committee. Oh, I thought, Gabriel, I saw your hand in the corner of my eye. All right. Hearing no further questions, I'll place the motion to a vote. Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. On to the next. That is 6G, Resolution R-145-21, approving the revocable permit and license agreement between the City of Fitchburg and the Limerick Fitchburg LLC. This is a direct referral, and I do have a citizen registration form from Mr. Sean O'Brien. He is available for questions, but no comment unless there's questions. So do I have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion. Would somebody like to speak to it? Bill?
Sure. This is an agreement and a revocable permit for the Limerick Fitchburg Corporation or group to use the City of Fitchburg property that's adjacent to their development. They have some site constraints that they're not able to construct part of the building and part of the retaining wall from their site, and they approached the City of Fitchburg to use our land for a portion of time to be able to access that, build the retaining wall, and part of their building. So the city put in place an agreement that you see before you tonight that would allow the corporation or the company to use this area to access. It's a 7-foot strip along the east side and a couple of areas in the back. It's in an environmental corridor area, so we wanted to make sure that everything was protected back there and restored to it's in a great environmental state. We do have in the agreement a restoration plan, which includes lots of trees and grasses and native grasses and things like that. That will be restored in there, and we also required a maintenance agreement for 3 years for that area, so the contractor's providing, or the developer's providing that maintenance for those to make sure everything is growing good for 3 years and so everything's restored good. They are providing a cash escrow to the City of Fitchburg in amount of 150% of the cost. I think it's 150% of the cost of the installation, and then an ongoing maintenance escrow as well to cover the cost in case they don't perform. The city could use that escrow in order to perform the maintenance itself over that 3 years. So I think there is one amendment that we noted in here that the developer would like to add to this agreement. It's not in the agreement, but there is a clause that, oh gosh, it has to do with the maybe the developer could explain this one, the escrow. I think you're the developer.
If you'll come up to the, use the.
Good evening, everyone. Sean O'Brien from North Point. I think you're referring to the escrow for the developer improvement or the subdivision improvement agreement, because in that agreement, that's being assigned to the Limerick Fitchburg LLC from Green Tech, who was the seller of the land. And in order to get our permits, we had to escrow for the dedication of the sidewalk and other public improvements. And so we put in a cash escrow for that account. And now that we're transferring over the agreement to the Limerick Fitchburg LLC, the subdivision improvement agreement, we'll replace that with a letter of credit. And we just wanted to make sure that that cash escrow comes back to North Point Development.
Right. This has nothing to do with this. There's one being considered at council tonight.
Okay.
That doesn't come to finance. So forget what I said.
Okay, so you're not asking for
I
an amendment.
apologize. I did get the two mixed up.
Yeah.
But yeah, that essentially we have everything we need here tonight to pass this resolution, and we're looking for approval.
Okay, very good. I'll ask the committee if there are any questions. Okay, hearing no, we're not going to put Sean on the hot seat, huh? All right. No, hearing no questions, let's place the motion to a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, hearing none, the motion passes.
Sorry about that.
Moving on to 66H, Resolution R-150-21, approving purchase of water meters with Midwest Meter, Inc., and this is a direct referral. Do I hear a motion?
I move approval.
Okay. And we have a motion for approval from Alder Gerhart. And Bill, are you speaking to this one as well, or do we? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, this is kind of an emergency purchase that we have due to the computer chip shortage that's worldwide. The meters that we currently install, the iPearl meters, they require a computer chip, and we also have a computer chip that's for a transmitter that transmits the signal of the reads back to our computer system for the meter reads. Because of the shortage, we're not able to purchase those for at least 18 weeks as was delayed. In order to be able to keep development going, our utility supervisor and engineer found a company for Badger meters that has a good meter, an equivalent meter that we could use to install in our residential units so that we can keep the development going. So we were able to secure 200 meters to be able to do that, get us through this stopgap measure, and then we'll be having the customers call in the reads for the meter reads while we don't have the transmitters. And so we'll be working with the customers with that to make sure that we get the meter reads back in. But once we are able to get our transmitters in, we'll be going back to the customers and installing those transmitters on their meters, and everything will be happy from there. But we're looking for approval from the council and the board tonight to be able to purchase those meters, 200 meters to get us through the next 6 months or so, just in case.
Very good, thank you, thank you. I'll open it up for questions from the committee. Gabriella, go ahead.
I'm just curious, so when we are able to get the ones that we typically use, the ones that we're installing, those 200 that we're installing are going to be irrelevant, or are we just adding a part to the ones that we're installing so that it can transmit the readings?
Yeah, the meters that we're purchasing are equal value and equal efficiency to the ones that we have. So we'll be keeping those in place, and then we'll just be installing the transmitter part to transmit the signal back.
Okay, we're just adding the transmitter later. Okay, sounds good.
Additional questions? Hearing none, place the motion to a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, hearing none, the motion carries. Moving on to the next resolution, which is 6I, Resolution R-151-21, adopting Terra Vista Sanitary Facilities Connection Charge Report, and this is a direct referral.
And if I may, this is another one where staff recommends doing it as approved by Board of Public Works to include that same language as the last one.
Okay, and so procedurally, we will, two different votes? I may,
So whoever,
all right.
sorry.
I'll move
Motion to
approval.
approve.
I'll move approval as amended by Public Works.
Okay,
Does that work?
okay. So all I have to ask is,
Discussion.
yeah, discussion. Nothing further? Gabriella?
I just want to confirm that this one too, these charges are being assessed to the developers and not the residents.
Yes.
Thank you.
Further questions? Jim? Nothing at this point? Hearing none, I'll place the motion to, including the amendment.
Yep, the original motion included it as amended by Board
All
of
right.
Public Works.
I'll place it to a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, hearing none, the motion carries. All right, moving on to announcements. The next meeting, which is under 7A, is scheduled for August 10th, 2021. Moving on to item 8, adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Who are you going to give it to, Chair?
Gabrielle.
Oh, how nice. All right, we'll give it to Gabriella. Those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Those opposed? The meeting, we are adjourned at 5:56 PM.